Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. This week, we're going to wade into the war on woke and its most adamant warrior, urging Kentucky to go back to sleep on May 16th, bored rich lady Kelly Craft. Also, it's still Earth Month, so I'll touch on a few federal programs Kentucky is and isn't pursuing to help address climate change. Then we'll meet up with the Democratic candidate for Agriculture Secretary Sierra Enlow. We've got a hard-hitting interview lined up where we'll make her tell us what ag tech is and why we need to support it. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We know that our state is deeply red. We have a GOP supermajority committed to punching down on trans kids, making all abortions illegal, cutting taxes for the rich and cutting services for the poor. Really the great stuff that we really need for our Commonwealth here, huh? But if you want to flip the script, if you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky, support our campaign to turn our Commonwealth purple, make a donation at our secure Act Blue website, spread the word that we're tired of the GOP ignoring the needs of regular folks in Kentucky, and that we think our Commonwealth is worth fighting for. So let's check in with our co-hosts. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what does your protest sign say today? You there on the interwebs, we mean you too. We want to read what your protest sign says. Put it in the chat while we're sharing ours. And I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg in beautiful Lexington. My protest sign says today, climate change isn't Santa Claus, dummy. It's real whether you believe or not. All right, that's mine. How about Doug? Doug, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I decided to go do something a little bit different today. I don't really have a protest sign that I'm wearing, but I do have a t-shirt on that, as you can read, says "Life is good." Later on, I will share another t-shirt that was definitely a protest sign that kind of clicks in with what I'm going to be talking about. So stay tuned.
Oh my, does that mean we had a costume change coming up with Doug Price? All right, and then for our third host, Nema, are you there?
I'm here, and I am coming to you live from beautiful North Lime here on the north side of Lexington, and from our new Union Hall. And my protest sign says, of course, support unions.
Nice. Fantastic. So yeah, really glad to have you back with us, Nema. I know we've got some subject matter that is sure to elicit some colorful thoughts and, and phrases. But yeah, and let's get into it. Let's do news of the week. And we have to cover this because the GOP primary fight for governor is just getting crazy and ugly, and we just have to know, is Kelly Craft serious? Doug, I think this is your story.
Yes. Al Cross has a great column floating around the internet discussing how dishonest and disgustingly well-funded Kelly Craft's campaign is. My thought is, when you have $1.4 billion, then money is no problem. And I'll talk more about that a little later. Nate, can you play the Kraft woke bureaucrats ad?
Our schools are under attack. Woke bureaucrats parachuting in to hijack our children's future.
I know my CRTs.
Forcing woke ideology into the classroom.
I'm Gracie. I'm a she, her.
It's immoral. I'm Kelly Craft, and as governor, I'll dismantle the Department of Education and start fresh, because these are our children, not the government's.
There's a lot to unpack there. CRT is not taught. There's just so much, but I guess when you have as much money as you can possibly spend, then you just come up with these things. The thing about the CRT book, I would like to note that it looked like it was empty, pretty much as I think this ad was. The other thing I want to talk about, jump right into, is the the fact that there is a gubernatorial candidate who has decided that Kraft should not be in the race and is going to try to get her removed. I'm going to read some excerpts from the candidate's website, followed by information from a lengthy article written by Austin Horn. This is from the GOP candidate that's running against Kraft. I'm a registered Republican with libertarian and conservative views. I have gone to jail fighting for clients to receive trials. I have been an ardent Trump supporter since 2015. I am a sinner, not a saint. And lastly, he states, I support ending Mitch McConnell's political career. Well, that's something I can buy into. This is my other t-shirt that I have. The candidate's name is Eric Dieters, and we should have solicited Dieters for donations. Mr. Dieters is the office manager at Dieters Law. At this time, his license to practice law is permanently suspended. I have to be careful what I say because so far I have never been sued, and certainly I don't want to break that streak. I think it is okay to state that over the years, the records will show that Mr. Dieters has filed multiple lawsuits over a wide range of matters. His latest action relates to his belief that Kelly Kraft is not a properly registered Kentuckian and therefore does not meet the qualifications to run for governor. This action will be disproved, but this does get his name out without spending his own money. He claims that Kraft only registered to vote in Kentucky in 2018, which is false. She has been registered to vote in Fayette County since 1991. In a statement, Kraft's campaign spokesman, Weston Lloyd, said that Kraft is a lifelong Kentucky resident. That's probably true. She was born in Barron County, raised there, and I expect has been a resident ever since. The Kentucky Constitution requires candidates for governor and lieutenant governor to have been citizens and residents of Kentucky for at least 6 years prior to their election. Kraft married billionaire coal magnate and philanthropist Joe Kraft in 2016. Joe only recently registered to vote in Kentucky in June of 2022. Kelly Kraft has voted in at least the last 5 general elections and the last 2 primary elections, and Joe has only voted in the 2022 general election in Fayette County. Most people know that the Krafts also have a home in Oklahoma where Joe Kraft's business is based. But the Tulsa County Election Board in Oklahoma said that Joe Kraft has been registered to vote there since 2011, and his registration has not been discontinued. He last voted in summer of 2021, and he didn't register in Kentucky until 2022. Kelly Kraft has never been registered to vote in Tulsa County, according to the information provided by the election board. So the only thing I see wrong here is that since Mr. Kraft is registered and has voted in Kentucky, then he needs to notify Oklahoma to delete him from their voting rolls. In other words, nothing illegal has been done. But as a side note, Mr. Kraft might want to let Forbes and other similar orgs know that he now lives in Kentucky. Why is that important? Well, currently there are only 5 billionaires in Kentucky, and Joe is not one of those. However, Joe is listed as an Oklahoma billionaire, having an estimated net worth of $1.4 billion. Bottom line, Kelly will stay on the ballot, and she will have whatever funds it takes to try to win this election. Back to you, Aaron.
Really going out on a limb there, huh? So you think, yeah. So Dieters, yet another misguided use of the legal system, which seems to be his track record as an attorney. His most significant track record is, misusing the law. So the other point. So it sounds like really Joe Kraft needs to to be in compliance with law, he needs to notify Oklahoma that he is no longer a voter there. Because right now he could actually vote in both places because he's registered in both places. But yeah, only if he votes there. But no one is saying that has happened, but we're watching closely. Nema, I know that this is one of your favorite candidates. I know you're a huge fan of Kelly Craft and her her overall message, right? Which is, I guess, just the war on woke. That's really what she's all about, and maybe some stuff about the border, right? Because another really important issue for the governor of Kentucky to weigh in on. But what do you think of that ad?
Well, here's the thing. I'll be honest. Kelly Craft offends me on every level imaginable as a Kentuckian and as a Kentucky woman. She also offends me on every level imaginable as somebody who thinks that they can just buy an election. And quite honestly, that's how she's gotten her points up so much in these polls, is because she has the cash. Let's be clear about this. Kelly Craft has earned nothing in her life. Nothing. Kelly Craft has been married multiple times and has been a fortunate person to be skinny, pretty, and just dumb enough to get somebody to marry her that has a lot of money. And now she's bored, and now she thinks that she should run the state of Kentucky. I have no doubts that she is a Kentuckian. I have no doubts. What I do have doubts of is that she is qualified. And, these days it doesn't seem to matter. People will drive this country into the ground over somebody that has this great story and has tons of money, because for some reason, a lot of working people and a lot of poor people in this state think that money makes you successful. They don't care how you got it. They just think if you have it, then you have the answers. And what I'm telling you is I don't see one answer, one solution, one anything that Kelly Craft's campaign has done. I'm still trying to figure out what Kentucky's promise is. Kentucky's promise to me is that when my daddy got black lung, they'd take care of him. And guess what? I'm still waiting. So's my daddy. So that was Kentucky's promise to me. I don't know what Kentucky promised Kelly Craft. I don't know if she's going to get a vacation home out of the deal. Kentucky never offered me a vacation home. But what I'm saying is this: Kentuckians need to wake up and look around and say, let me tell you something. Yeah, we're sick of career politicians, but we've at least got to have people that can say the alphabet and not have to have a script for it. And I'm not trying to be, mean or anything. I'm calling it like I see it. I don't understand this woke thing that she has sent out about educators is not only offensive, but it's this stereotypical thing. I mean, look at these people, right? I mean, you've just offended pretty much half of the state that are teachers and the other half that love them. So I don't understand why she's going after teachers. Let me just be clear. Teachers don't set curriculum. Teachers don't set content. Teachers work together, and teachers barely have time to go take a pee during the day. They are told when they can pee, y'all. Do you think that they really want or have time to indoctrinate anybody? They don't even get to see their own kids during the day, during the whole school year. So my whole thing is this: take this bullcrap, Kentucky, call it for what it is. See that she is just another grifter with a big old bank account and a pretty head and an empty head, and move on. God help us if she makes it through, because I'm going to tell you, it'll be a nasty, nasty, nasty campaign, because she doesn't deal in the truth. She deals in whatever these buzzwords are. Listen to her talk. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to be controversial, Aaron and Doug. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to get a little controversial tonight. Make no mistake, she didn't skip the KSR event because it was KSR. And make no mistake, the softball question that got asked to her about CRT and the empty chair, that is all part of the game, baby. She owns UK lock, stock, and barrel. And they hate KSR, but she's not so stupid that she ain't going to use them. So, there's all kinds of different, there's different standards that Kelly Craft is used to living to. That's what happens when you're rich as, you can be, and you don't have to worry about anything. She didn't show up in Canada. She sure as hell ain't going to show up in Kentucky because she lives part-time in Tulsa. And I've said it, and it might be controversial, but you know what? It's the truth.
Yeah, I don't know what in that was controversial. I didn't no lies detected from my perspective. I think she's gaming the system as much as she can. She's dumping a bunch of her husband's ill-gotten gains into this race. An incredible amount of money into the Associated PAC, uncoordinated, of course. But
right. And think about how many laws she's violating here. I saw just something on Twitter just before we got on that was talking about how any money that was she gave her because Max Wise is her running mate, all this has to be returned. So it's like she has no rules because she's never had to. Rich people don't have the rules. What is it? It's the golden rule.
The golden
Whoever
rule.
has the gold makes the rules, right? Yeah. She's already got herself, dug so deep. God only knows what other kind of scandals she's going to hit. And I want to tell you right now, it would not surprise me one bit if she doesn't get indicted. And if she wins, give her 4 years, her ass will be in prison. Seriously. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. Let's just be honest.
I have one other thought I want to mention, and I don't know whether this is be a good thing or a bad thing, but Mitch favored Cameron back when Mitch was, in my opinion, thinking about not running again. I think he would have liked Cameron to run, and then also he I guess is in love with Kelly Craft because of the money and that sort of thing. And I wonder what would happen when maybe Quarles wins this primary and those two are looking for a job. Will Mitch submit their names to replace him?
Well, and I've been thinking about that a lot too, Doug, because of the law change, right? I mean, there's obviously something going on here. I firmly believe, just in watching, the GOP stuff, that there are two candidates that I really appreciate right now in the race. One of them is Keck. He seems to me to be the brightest bulb in the whole box. And he also seems to me he sounds like he knows what he's doing. Sounds like to me like that he's led before, right? Like that he's actually governed, right? But I honestly believe he is auditioning for Hal Rogers' seat. And so I think this is his big stage to take that over. And honestly, I don't think I'd be complaining too much, about that happening. I think that's what he's doing. I think the whole Kelly Craft Cameron thing is kind of bizarre. The Quarles thing is intriguing to me, Doug, because I think he might be the wild card in all this. And I say that because you're going to have people who just get crushed. It's going to be interesting. I used to think that this path went through Louisville. Now I'm beginning to wonder if it's not going to go through Western Kentucky. And I say that because of Quarles, his connection to the ag, the ag culture and all these other things. It's going to be really, really interesting to me. But I would not discount Ryan Quarles right now in this race as being the dark horse. Now, here's the other thing. My other favorite is Eric Dieters. And I know people are going to be like, Nema, he's crazy. He's all these other things. Let me tell you something. That man might be crazy, but he's not afraid to tell the truth. And he spills the tea like nobody else in the GOP spills the tea. He knows where the bodies are hidden. And I'm going to tell you right now, I could listen to him speak his truth all day long because a lot of times he's dead on right.
He was a radio talk show host, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's not stupid, and he knows where all the bodies are.
Yeah,
he's he's the one I'd be worried about if I was them because he's going to tell all their secrets.
Well, Keck is interesting. He doesn't have any money, right? So he's clearly, and he doesn't have a shot. There's no lane for him. He does not have a shot with the kind of money he's up against, right? Mm-hmm. Quarles hasn't really started spending his money, but he's got enough that he'll be able to go on TV a bit and remind folks he's in the race and that he's an actual, somebody with some experience doing things that matter in the state. I think I'm going to need to check in with our guest later to find out what exactly an agriculture secretary does, but commissioner does. But he's been doing stuff for a while. And he does seem serious, right? He's not pandering to the kind of culture war stuff, it seems like, which is
with Quarles, he's kind of gone back and forth, and it's really kind of unfortunate. I was really disappointed in his plan for education, because there were a lot of dog whistles in that plan that
Mhm.
weren't obvious dog whistles, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Kelly Craft has gone all in on the dog whistles. But he's still kind of playing that sensible Republican role. We're still trying to pick up some of the loons. That will help him in the general, but I don't know if that's going to help him push it through in the primary. But either way it goes, I'm still taking Andy Bashir.
There we go. I mean, this is for us. Like, really, it's just interesting, right?
Oh, it's amazing to watch. Yeah,
it's not gonna sway my vote, right? I'm gonna show up on the 16th, and I'm gonna vote for Andy, not Jeff Young. I'm not intrigued by that Jeff Young character.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to me that we have this kind of, but we're seeing it again, and really and truly, you all, in all seriousness, Kentuckians are the ones that are losing out in this battle for the soul of the Republican Party. And it's really the working people that are getting screwed on this whole thing, while everybody else is laughing all the way to the bank. I think that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind, that ultimately, these folks don't care a damn about y'all, not or me. They don't care. They do what they do. They say what they want to say, and they just do what they're going to do. So they don't care. They do not care. And I cannot tell you, I mean, really, do we really think that Kelly Craft is going to be able to be the great consoler of the Commonwealth for 4 years whenever she can't even show up to her freaking pansy job in freaking Canada? Do we honestly think she's going to show up? I mean, I just don't see it happening. She's going to have to go to the ball games and all that other kind of stuff. God forbid there be a plane crash or something in, Kentucky when that happens, because she'll be sitting there in Louisiana State.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the truth. She just wants to pretend. She wants to be political Barbie doll, right? Hey, here's politician Barbie. I'm coming out here. I mean, that's what she's doing, right?
No, she can't wait for her first disaster, because she gets to wear the
coat,
windbreaker. She's excited about the.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's so sad, because you know what? She's got a legitimate shot.
Oh yeah, when you have that much money, and she's got a resume that's like, well, I guess she's done some things. Like, don't look too closely at how she did those things, right?
I just want somebody that's considering voting for her to ask themselves this one thing: what has she earned in her life that she was not given either by her daddy's name or her husband's money? And if you can show me one thing that woman has done that's all great and worthy that would make her governor, then I'll entertain it. But until then, forget it.
Yeah, Cameron definitely, he's got money behind him. I think he's got the support of a couple of key political voices. That's been interesting. He's not said whether or not Trump is going to show up and campaign for him. That does seem like that would, take a pretty significant commitment from Trump, who's got a lot of other things he needs to pay attention to right now. But I think if he did, I think that would probably, be all it takes in this state to win a primary. But the fact that he's got Mitch and Trump's endorsements, that's significant.
But does Mitch help at this point, you guys?
Is Mitch what?
Does Mitch really help in Kentucky anymore? I mean, there's a lot more and more people that are not Democrats.
I think he helps the institutions, right? Mitch knows, because Mitch has enough sway that all the the parties county parties look to Mitch and follow Mitch's leadership. I think by and large, right? Not all of them, but he's going to lead the influencers, and those folks are going to have an influence in the county. But it'll be interesting to watch it all play out. Obviously, I think one thing that Al Cross's column, which I'll put in the chat, I think did as well, pointed out how much she's leaning into kind of faith and religion and Christianity. She even has who has sent something around for her, Franklin Graham. Yeah,
I blocked him on Twitter a year ago. That guy's nuts.
No, definitely.
And last time I checked, my grandma didn't have Twitter, so I don't know. But have y'all noticed she's going for the blue hair group at Rupp Arena? Like, she's not going for the eruption zone crowd. She's going for the blue hairs that won't stand up. I mean, she is. And I don't know why any Kentuckian would vote for blue hairs. You know how much UK fans hate that stuff. So I'm like, dude, you're going for the wrong people. You know?
Well, the woke thing, the anti-woke thing, she just needs to get a video of her shooting at some Budweiser cans. I think that'll help, right? Like Kid Rock has led a charge that has dropped Budweiser sales by nearly 20%.
Do you know that she probably owns Budweiser? Let's just be honest. She's probably got more stock in Budweiser than anybody. She ain't gonna say nothing that's gonna hurt her portfolio. Come on now.
Joe Kraft's like, oh, hey, honey, let's not
We
not
can't
too
get into
crazy.
the beer wars now. I got money in that. Yeah, I mean, come on. And you know what? And here's the thing. They might have done some great things, for UK, but shame on this state for having to sell out our entire university system to boosters. I mean, shame on them.
Right, so we have spent a bit of time here. We have burnt through the amount of allocated time by a wide margin, but I am so glad that we have. I did want to touch base on a couple of quick stories before we get to our guests. So, folks, it is still Earth Month, and as much as it's critical that we get our state moving forward on the environment, we are dead last in wind and solar production, right? So just so you know, in case you've missed this memo, progressive West Virginia produces 40 times more clean energy than Kentucky. So what are we doing about it? Well, not much. Andy did recently stand up for better responses to natural disasters, signed a bill, a unanimously supported bill, which was HB 157. And that was under the leadership of Rachel Roberts and Representative Mark Hart, which creates a statewide urban search and rescue program so the state can deploy resources more quickly and strategically in the wake of floods and tornadoes and wildfires and other very much climate-fueled chaos. A number of our neighbor states have passed similar legislation. Seems to work pretty well. It's a useful step, especially in the kind of with all the high-impact extreme weather events we've seen over the past few years. Certainly a smart move, given that these events will likely be more frequent and more intense due to climate change impacts. But now Kentucky is standing out in its resistance to accepting and seeking federal funds to make these disasters less likely. A really important story in the Kentucky Lantern that dug into this issue, and that the state did not come up with a plan for climate mitigation. The Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, which was through the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, through the U.S. EPA. They give states money to do a plan, and then using that plan, they can apply for a bucket of $4.6 billion to actually reduce their carbon emissions. And they can do it through a bunch of different ways. And unfortunately, Kentucky stands out because one of only 4 states that chose not to apply for those planning funds. So Florida, South Dakota, and Iowa are the others that have missed the ball there. And that means we'll not be able to compete for those grants as much as $4.6 billion to implement the plans, which again, just really, I think, a missed opportunity. The Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet, John Murrah, he's the spokesman there. He said that the local governments are best situated to apply for and administer the grant funding, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. But it's great that cities like Louisville and Lexington are absolutely raising their hands and are putting together their plans. And then Bowling Green, I think, is considering doing it. So those 3 cities could actually get some resources. But again, that leads out 117 other counties that could be involved with helping to reduce our climate pollution, and doing it through a lot of different ways. So I will grant some credit to the governor, because it's not this like he's ignoring all the federal buckets of resources that have been made available. State is making good on other clean energy and clean transportation funds that are being rolled out via the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. Of course, the Inflation Reduction Act is the single largest investment in clean energy that our nation has ever made. But a number of those investments do require state partners. The state has a plan for about $25 million over 2 years of high-speed EV charging infrastructure. With matching funds, that program's worth about $86 million through the next 5 years or so. And I think that's really important, because if we're going to build the batteries for EVs, we better get serious about supporting the adoption and the building of the market this transportation evolution. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Why did Andy's team Kentucky pass on developing a plan to tackle climate emissions and thereby passing on a multi-billion-dollar pot of money? Any thoughts?
I don't know. Was it a political decision?
I mean, the guy's running for governor, right? So I think any decision, like what pair of socks he wears in the morning, is probably a political decision. He knows that it's a tough race, but does it look bad in Kentucky to say, "Oh yeah, we came up with a climate pollution reduction plan," which I think you'd still sidestep coal, which obviously this state is so culturally just does whatever coal wants, even though it's like less than 5,000 jobs or actual coal miners in Kentucky anymore, right? Like versus like 100,000 jobs that are in the auto manufacturing world, right? So it's like we're still feel this fealty to an industry that doesn't mean nearly so much to us anymore. But yeah, I think absolutely it's something that he could have come up with a plan that didn't touch coal at all if he wanted to. But it's like, why do you pass up on federal dollars? I don't get it.
Yeah, I got to go with Doug on this. It looks to me like it's a political decision. I don't know. I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball into Andy's political, plan or campaign plans or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, all I know is that anytime money's on the table and Kentucky can actually benefit from it, my goal is to always say, yeah, you should probably do it. But, again, I'm not the only, the highest Democrat in a state full of red. And, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know. It does sound something political to me, though.
Yeah, it's hard to, I would hate to think they just dropped the ball and like didn't get their plan together in time for the deadline. I would prefer they made a conscious decision. And maybe it is like maybe they talked to the mayors of Louisville and Lexington. Hey, you guys queued up to do this because there's no political downside for you getting these dollars. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, I think you guys are right. I think politics plays a role. Speaking of politics playing a role. We're going to move on to our next item on this week's episode. We are very excited to talk with Sierra Enlow, who is the Democratic candidate for Agriculture Commissioner. And this is really exciting because I've long been interested to find out what an Agriculture Commissioner does. And I think Sierra is going to be a great person to tell us about that. Sierra, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time off the campaign trail to chat with us.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for inviting me to participate in the podcast and the conversation tonight. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you have and talk about what this race can do and what it cannot do, because I think that that's something we haven't seen from the constitutional officer candidates that are fighting tough Republican primaries at this point, is identifying truly what an office does and how they can impact policy through that specific office.
Yeah, so tell us about it, right? So who are you and why do you want this position, and what can this position do for our state?
Yeah, so my name, as you mentioned from the introduction, my name is Sierra Enlow. I am an economic development consultant, so I cover the entire state. I advise communities and companies that are looking on expanding and growing both operations and their communities here on how we create good, strong economies for Kentucky. And ultimately, that's really what your ag commissioner should be doing, is focusing on creating strong economies for rural Kentucky. I know that one of the things you're particularly interested in this conversation is the market for hemp, what medical marijuana is going to look like in the rest of the conversation tonight. But that's what an ag commissioner should be doing. An ag commissioner should be focusing on how we build these markets in Kentucky and how we build the good supply chains that we want to see for our Kentucky farmers. In addition to that, the Ag Commissioner's Office has gotten assigned a lot of different tasks through the history of the office. So they are someone who's very deeply concerned with implementation of policy and creating good services for Kentuckians. Part of the reason that everyone votes for the Ag Commissioner in Kentucky is because the Ag Commissioner truly touches every Kentucky citizen's life, whether that be through amusement park safety, fair weights and measures, organic certifications, lots of different aspects. Gas stations, there's a lot of food safety concerns. So the Ag Commissioner is really touching every Kentuckian's life. And that's really the reason that everyone votes for it, and not just people that have farm IDs or have a farm lifestyle that are part of that economy.
Okay, so even when I fuel up with gas, that office would be involved with that transaction somehow?
Sure. Yeah. So again, the Ag Commissioner in Kentucky historically has been constitutionally assigned both labor and statistics in addition to the agriculture industry and weights and measures. And so, I mean, that office is truly responsible with both the safety at the gas stations and whether or not the scales are correct in that office. And when you start to think about how the office evolved from the point that we put it in the Constitution, that makes a lot of sense. Ag producers are really concerned about whether or not weights and measures are fair and accurate, because that makes a difference in a perfectly competitive industry on whether or not you're getting the money you need for your crops or for your livestock. That has continued on into other forms of weights and measures. It also has really been focused on safety. So when you go to a gas station and you buy milk at a gas station, or you buy eggs or other produce, or anything at a gas station that may have an agriculture tie, that's also very important. So even in a lot of gas stations, even though you see that sticker on the gas pump, you'll see another Ag Commissioner sticker on the inside of that gas station, or a license that says that they're certified to sell eggs and other agriculture products there as well.
Cool. So yeah, I think Doug's got a question. Doug is, a bit more of an agriculture expert than I am, because he lives in a highly rural county. So I live in Fayette. I don't really see so much of it, but Doug's out there in Harrison County, which is, I think he's surrounded by it.
Yes, I'm in Harrison County, Kentucky. We live on a 13-acre piece of property. We have no farming or anything like that. So I'm really not an ag person, but I did want to ask you a question. I looked at your website, and the work you've been doing in the private sector seems to just fit you perfectly to come in and work on ag tech. And can you tell us a little bit about your present work and then how that ties in with the new ag commissioner job?
Yeah, when I worked for the city of Louisville, I was really focused on developing the tech sector in Louisville. And what that meant was that we moved the city of Louisville's economic development strategy from call centers as a business service to tech-enabled businesses. And that means surprisingly a lot more to Kentuckians than they expect. Churchill Downs is one of the largest tech employers in Louisville. I know that a lot of people associate Churchill Downs with the Derby and activity associated with that, but they do all their game development, all their wagering apps, all the development for those in-house. So they employ a huge number of tech workers in the city of Louisville, while still being an ag-oriented business and something that's really important to the agriculture economy in Kentucky. The same is true for Farm Credit Mid-America, which is a traditional ag lender that's headquartered in Louisville. They are doing all their software development within the city of Louisville as well, not only for Kentucky, but for the whole spectrum of states that they serve. So they're developing apps for farmers to have financial services and making sure that those apps are solid and applicable to their loan programs. So that was a big thing for the city of Louisville and how we focused on tech and moved that forward for the city. And ag tech is really truly the same story across the state of Kentucky, is that we have to look at how our existing businesses are employing different technologies and how we can pull that into the ag tech sector. A great example of that, Silver Fern in Lexington, which is a company that does sensors that monitor large-scale greenhouses. And even though they don't have clients in Kentucky, that tech is still being developed here. And it's the type of fast-growing company that we want to continue to encourage from the true ag tech sector. And there's a lot of corporate opportunities, and there's a lot of growth and high wage growth that can take place because of this innovation that's coming out of production agriculture and has been specifically designed to serve production ag. Again, going back to the Silver Farm example, looking at the financial apps that Farm Credit is serving, and then thinking about how a company like Churchill Downs is really using tech to push their ag sector and horse racing forward in their hospitality industries as well.
That's super interesting. So I know, is this my mic that's making this noise? This sound is horrible.
I know. I was trying to figure out who it was.
I think
it's not me. It's not me.
It sounded like somebody typing.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like someone's typing, but I wonder if my mic's going bad, because I definitely noticed it there. There. Huh. All right.
Yeah, you might be the problem, Aaron.
Damn. I was just judging everyone. Who the heck's doing it? Anyway, so we will soldier on. I know that there is like, so who is it that owns the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale Company? They're like big in the ag tech
All-Tech.
world,
Yeah,
right?
All-Tech. Yeah.
And then we've got what is the other one that's big, but maybe it's not big? App Harvest. They got a lot of attention. Is that
Sure.
going to be an ongoing concern? Have you talked to those folks? How do they seem?
I would say that controlled ag is going to be a big sector that we want to pay attention to in Kentucky. You have companies like Gray Construction who are really leaders in that across the country. So we definitely want to prepare for that as an economy. I haven't specifically spoken to App Harvest and talked to them about how their model is proceeding, but I would say that that type of industry is viable in Kentucky, and we certainly have a lot of companies that are experimenting and preparing to engage as that industry continues to grow. There are a lot of other ag companies that we've left out of the conversation in Kentucky. So Yum Brands, for example, great ag company, someone that needs to be connected more to the ag industry and production agriculture in Kentucky. House Foods in Louisville is a tofu manufacturing facility that we haven't connected to soybean farmers. It goes on and on. Texas Roadhouse hasn't necessarily developed strong relations with our poultry farmers in Kentucky. There's just a great list of how we can create stronger food systems in Kentucky and how we can create additional dollars for Kentucky farmers. And that's really the business, again, that your Commissioner of Agriculture should be in and be engaged in, is how are we thinking about creating a good farm gate impact while negotiating for Kentucky farmers and Kentucky rural residents in the boardroom for these economic development conversations so that they're getting good representation and they're getting good jobs for their communities.
Yeah, super smart. And so, yeah, we touched on earlier, or you touched on earlier, the idea that hemp could be something for farmers. Yeah. I like to acknowledge when my political folks I don't really like politically do the right thing, and I think Mitch played a pretty significant role in making that a reality for Kentucky. So we'll give him kudos there, I guess. Let's hear. Should we give him kudos? How are things in the hemp industry?
I actually think that Mitch needs a lot of kudos within the agriculture industry. I mean, we had a great tobacco buyout that Mitch McConnell was responsible for. I think at the federal level, creating opportunities for farmers through legalizing hemp, great support for the ag industry. Where we're really intentional in pointing out some of the flaws in this is talking about how ag commissioners have mismanaged and created bad systems that allowed these markets to fail in Kentucky. So I think you see under Jamie Comer's administration that licenses for hemp farmers were handed out first to wealthy Western Kentucky donors. And not to Eastern Kentucky farmers and small farmers across the state, and certainly not to minority farmers that needed those new opportunities. And that's what we can't have happen with medical marijuana and the rollout of it and creating a good, strong economy in Kentucky, is that we have to have a system that is fair and accessible and has the same opportunity for success for every farmer that wants to engage in this crop. We also have to make sure that we're looking at this responsibly, and we're building a sustainable ecosystem around new crops that come to Kentucky. So we can't have what happened with hemp, where we told farmers to go ahead and grow this, but we didn't have good processors in place, and we didn't have the market to deliver hemp products to consumers in place. And again, this is where you need an ag commissioner that has real economic development experience and has the experience in looking at how we bring these processors to Kentucky and how we support their growth in the process of creating new opportunities for Kentucky farmers.
Wow. So you've clearly thought a lot about this. Really excited to hear your thoughts about it. Maybe you should tell Eric Dieters about what Mitch has done for farmers. He seems to be not very happy with the guy. But I did want to just check in. Are there other things that people should know about this office and about what you'd like to do there? And then I'll let Nema give us the last question because I can't take this microphone anymore.
Yeah, I think one of the missed opportunities, again, is with food as health. And I think that there are a lot of really cool things that organizations like Humana are doing for their patients and members of their health plans. And I think that the Ag Commissioner can continue to build on some of the success of the current Ag Commissioner with that, and really focusing on food as health and making sure that we're helping support that as a true industry in Kentucky, and that's often not talked about enough. Is making sure that we're getting healthy Kentucky-grown ag products into into the hands of people who need them. The other thing that I think that we can do a really good job on, and that hasn't been talked about enough, is making sure that Kentucky grains are going into Kentucky bourbon, and making sure that we have a path to track that, because we know that that is happening, but we at this point are having to send them out of state to consolidated grain, and then they come back to Kentucky farms. So it would be nice to make sure that we're looking at how we have those capabilities and that tracking capability to advertise that Kentucky grains are truly going into Kentucky bourbon.
Cool.
Oh, Nema, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I hate when people do that, so I'm sorry. I want to go back to the medical marijuana, medical cannabis issue, because we all saw hemp collapse, not being able to process or to do anything, and just basically the plant just dying and rotting in silos across the Commonwealth. Do we have an infrastructure in place right now that can maintain medical marijuana at all, where our smaller farmers could get in on the business or the industry? Does that even exist? Does that infrastructure even exist right now?
Not really. And to be honest, I actually think that this was a really smart way that Governor Beshear rolled this out in his executive order, was that he allowed for the decriminalization for medical uses, and he created a good opportunity for people to engage and feel comfortable with using this as a product before he authorized and gave the state legislature really started to set up this opportunity for Kentucky farmers. Again, it's just not going to happen overnight. It's a slow process. When you talk about a processing plant, even in the best of terms, 12 to 24 months is what we would anticipate for a food manufacturer to be up and running. And that's, a very long period of time when we're talking about getting something ready from an industry perspective and getting it rolled out to the consumer. Again, that's where your ag commissioner needs to really be the player. It's part of the reason that the ag commissioner sits on the Economic Development Partnership Board. And this is really why you also need a Democrat ag commissioner that plays well with a Democrat governor to make sure that we're talking about cross-agency collaboration for these types of industries.
Well, it seems pretty clear that Ryan Quarles has not had a lot to do with Andy, unfortunately. So you would clearly be an improvement there. Any thoughts about how people can help your campaign? What can they do? You do actually have a contested primary.
I know.
So there's a candidate
Yeah.
you're running against. There'll be 2 names on the ballot for Democrats to pick from.
So I definitely would encourage everyone to show up on May the 16th to vote. Governor Beshear also has a contested primary, so it's really important that Democrats show up for both of myself and Governor Beshear for the primary. Even though we think that both of those races will be a landslide, it sends a very strong message to Republicans that we are engaged in this race and we're ready to support our candidates for there to be a good level of voter turnout on May the 16th. The other thing is that I know that everyone hates candidates dialing for dollars, but we certainly need the support in down ballot races, not just for myself, but all the other down ballot candidates. It is very difficult to fundraise for a down ballot race in Kentucky, and particularly as a Democrat, even though we need money to get up on media and to fight the Republican ads that'll be coming out. And as you've seen in the primary, those ads are going to be vicious this fall. And it's important that our Democrat candidates have the ability to fight back for those ads and that we don't concede that airspace.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sierra, for joining us and for sharing your view of the agriculture commissioner and the role that you'll be playing. And I really hope that folks do get out and vote. And take a look at our website to make a donation and support that effort.
Okay, thank you again for having me today. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to listen to your conversation and to engage with you all. And you didn't ask too hard of questions, so I'm hoping that the next time I'm on here, you've got some really hard ones prepped for me.
Okay, the challenge. The gauntlet's been thrown down. We will do our research and come at you. We also do need to acknowledge, just in the interest of transparency, that your one of your crack campaign staffers is actually one of our regular colleagues on this show as well, who produces our show. So Annabelle Nagel, you clearly have a good eye for talent and so glad that she's able to work on your campaign.
Yeah, I'm glad to have her. So please reach out to Annabelle too if you have any questions. She's learning all of her agriculture facts across the state of Kentucky. So please feel free to quiz her on those as well.
I think she's mostly excited that she gets to meet goats from time to time. I don't know. As far as I can tell, I don't.
She had sheep. She was bottle feeding some baby lambs that we had on the farm. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and have a good time out there. Be that joyful warrior for this position, because we absolutely need you in it. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Wow.
All right, this audio issue, I have to apologize to any podcast listeners who are still with us. I don't know what is going on, except for she's gone now, so it was her fault. Annabelle, your candidate needs to get a new mic. Just to say that. Thank God it's not me. All right.
Really?
So,
I'm like, I hope that wasn't me. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I blame Nate for this? Who's doing
Yeah,
this?
right.
Nope, it's the
Nate.
candidate.
It's Nate.
All right, so we're gonna do our call to action, and then we're gonna get out of here because it's been nearly an hour. But I don't know, guys, what'd you think?
I think it went well. You know, I mean, we made it happen again. Another week. That's right.
I always have fun.
That's right. You know.
Well, and I do think that she's a heck of a candidate.
Absolutely. I learned a lot.
I did too.
I was like, wow. I had no idea.
Very impressed.
You know, I was going to vote for her anyway because Annabelle was working for her, but now I'm going to feel really good about it for sure.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, one of those blue dog Democrats, right? No, yellow dog Democrats, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I would be, but then I moved to Kentucky and like, good God, I can't vote for these Republicans. Anyway, so here's the call to action, people. I'm reminding you that it is, while it's Earth Month right now, that Nevery Day is Earth Day for the Kentucky GOP. Send a quick message to the governor, our senators, your representative, your state lawmakers, demanding that Kentucky stop its irrational attack on clean energy and its reflexive support for coal. As we mentioned earlier, we're dead last in wind and solar energy production in the United States. And meanwhile, when these EV battery plants that Andy has landed for Kentucky are online and blowing and going, there will be nearly twice as many Kentucky jobs in the EV battery manufacturing industry as the coal industry. So, you know, coals are past. We can be proud of it, but it's had a mixed legacy, as Nema can tell you. You know, talking about her dad's black lung. Like, let's not sugarcoat this, right? So the reality is, should we let coal continue to veto our future? I don't think we should. Please take action. It's a quick action to just say, hey, let's get serious about clean energy in Kentucky. It's outrageous that we're dead last in the country. So just takes a minute. Click through, send your message, and help change the narrative in Kentucky. So that's my request for y'all right now to get active and get involved. Doug, you want to close us out?
Certainly, Aaron. Thanks for asking. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We're affiliated with the Individual Project, the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, commonly referred to as CAVE. We're also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, so important, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Make sure to join us next week when we'll be joined by former GOP Representative Bob Hellringer. He was vocal in opposition to the anti-LGBTQ Senate Bill 150. So we'll check in with him about the current state of the GOP. We'll also be welcoming other candidates in the upcoming weeks. So put COT on your calendar now. Michael Bowman, Democratic candidate for treasurer, will join us on May the 10th. Representative Colonel Pam, the Democratic candidate for AG, will join us on May the 17th. And we will continue to invite other candidates. So just be prepared to join us when we have candidates. Production of episode 110. It always amazes me to think about that. This is our 110th episode. this evening was by Nate O. Thank you, Nate, for the theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. If you missed our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry, you can rewatch shows and see our source links on Facebook. Horror audio podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Logo and some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. That's the end of the show. Hope to see you next week.